evening, everyone. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it into our website, our podcast, and our YouTube channel. We record in audio only. Feel free to use the podcast on our website along with your big book as a resource if you missed the study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so you can follow along. Tonight's recap will start on page 104 with few exceptions and end on page 105, Made Them Killjoys. Our study will start on page 105, There Was Never Financial Security, and end on page 108, Drunk Again Immediately. Are there any announcements?
Hi family, my name's Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic. I'll be going to fourth quarter assembly this next weekend to represent our group, so I will let you know at next group conscience what is going on, and we will also send out a GSR report via email. So that's what I got for you folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie, and good evening, everyone. I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name is Trish. Welcome to the Lppbbsg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for our Big Book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of meditation followed by our family's foglight prayer.
And I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name is Alyssa. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Please be aware of background noises when you are unmuted and sharing as to not distract others or yourself. We suggest we all observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. And a friendly reminder, absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share, and we will call on you in the order hands are raised.
From the foreword to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are focus on your breath and posture. Breathe in God and breathe out self.
Take this time to reconnect with God, let the craziness of the day drift away, and ask God to help you focus on the study.
prayer. Please join me. God, let your love shine through
Let your
us,
love shine through us like a fire,
so that those who are lost, sick,
so
and
that
dying
those
find
who
your
are
love.
sick and dying can find your love through us. Amen. And let's have our secretary's report. Come on in, Miss Lisa.
Hi, everyone. I'm your recovered, my name is Lisa, and I'm your recovered alcoholic secretary. I've asked Art to read the recovered statement. We read this notice to explain why many people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovering, and what it exactly means to be a recovered alcoholic. Take it away, Art.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Art. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. Recovered. We are not cured of alcoholism, recovered but not cured. This presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will be with us, remain with us for a lifetime. But we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body, from page 23. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered.
Thank you, Art. Thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 p.m. Central Time with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our Big Book study starts promptly at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our Big Book study seriously. Because of this, chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only elements to sobriety were God, a Big Book, and one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic, the success rate was as follows. From the foreword to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX, of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapsed, and the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Can we have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time?
Welcome. Glad to have you with us.
Karen.
Welcome. And the recovered alcoholics? These are your potential sponsors. Is anyone celebrating a milestone this week?
Art is. You can unmute, Art.
I actually celebrated it last week, but I wasn't able to be here, so I will celebrate today. That's right. Somebody got it right. Thank you.
You're welcome, Art. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
What does that read?
40s.
Wow, congrats.
Right. It says 46.
Awesome.
I saw
Congrats.
another hand. Miss Heather, are you celebrating? Did your hand go?
I am. I will be celebrating 11 years on the 14th.
Yay.
You won't get your chip till next week.
That's okay.
I got one coming too, but I'll wait till then, on the 17th.
Got another hand.
Hey. If you should require a big book,
Hang on, Lisa. Miss Beverly has a milestone as well. Come
Hi,
on.
Beverly. My name is Beverly, and I'm an alcoholic. And on the well, yesterday was my sober day, but I'll be celebrating on the 25th of this month, 37 years.
Wonderful.
Congratulations.
Wonderful.
Hang on just a second. you go.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Anybody else? If you should require a big book of your own, we have large print editions available that can be sent to you by buzzard mail. Delivery time questionable. Please remember to practice our 7th tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo or PayPal posted in chat and on the screen. Our suggestion is to purchase a big book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website posted in the chat. Thank you and see you next week.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Art. And congratulations to everybody celebrating.
Thank you.
From chapter 2, there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself, nor your reason for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
Before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed Tradition 3. Tonight, let's take a quick look at Tradition 4. Please refer to page 562 of Alcoholics Anonymous. Come on in, Heather.
Thank you for having me. I'm Heather. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. Tradition 4, short form. Each group should be autonomous in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. Long form. With respect to its own affairs, each AA group should be responsible to no other authority than its own conscience. But when its plans concern the welfare of neighboring groups, also those groups ought to be consulted. And no group, regional committee, or individual should ever take any action that might greatly affect AA as a whole without conferring with the trustees of the General Service Board on such issues. Our common welfare is paramount. In language of the heart, Bill wrote, the first sentence guarantees each AA group local autonomy with respect to its own affairs. The group may make any decisions, adopt any attitudes that it likes. No overall intergroup authority should challenge this primary privilege. So, what does that mean? It means while we have the right to make any decisions we feel are best for our group, Lppbbsg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group, we cannot make them for AA as a whole without thorough discussion and taking certain steps. It goes on to state that if we wish to do anything affecting AA as a whole, we need to bring that before an intergroup committee. We cannot represent the whole of AA by printing and distributing anything purporting to be AA standard literature. We can print something for our individual group, however. I have been in groups where at the group conscience, no one asked any questions, clarified any unspoken confusion, and everyone voted in favor of what that person running the group conscience wanted. It wasn't an open discussion of group issues, but what that one person wanted to bring to intergroup. However, at Lppbbsg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group, we have group conscience to be able to go over all the issues raised, discuss and ask any questions about any important issues that may need to be heard at an intergroup or regional level. We make sure that everyone understands what issues are we may face or need to vote on, ask questions to clarify things that we may not understand before moving forward with what we may need to bring to the table at a higher level, if any, to be addressed, we seek to understand the problem, find the solution, and take the action necessary. Tradition 4 tells me on these such issues, our common welfare is paramount. It is necessary for our survival. Thank you so much for letting me share this.
Thank you, Heather. And Heather will be back next week for Tradition 5.
And it's now time for our weekly installment of That Ain't in the Book. We hear a lot of stuff said in meetings that can't be reconciled with the program as described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. What follows is one of the things we often hear, along with what the Big Book has to say on the subject. One of the things we hear is, stay out of relationships for the first year. Ken, can you please come in and tell us what it says on page 69, paragraph 4? Oh, you're muted. There you go.
All right, I think I got unmuted there. So I think you wanted me to start with the last paragraph, which starts with God alone can
Yeah.
judge our sex situation.
Perfect, thank you.
Counsel,
Oh, just that one sentence.
pardon?
Just that one sentence.
Okay.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
As we study, please make use of the pens, highlighters, and rulers so that you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book Study Guide as prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
In order to stay focused,
Oh, that's fine.
sorry. Tonight we are going to start our recap on page 104, which will be read by Donald, followed by our study portion, which will be read by Miss Suzanne.
Good evening, afternoon, everybody. My name is Donald. I am a
Hold on a minute.
Just
Gotta
a
look
moment,
at the
Dawn.
book before you come in.
After the page is read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium, starting back up on our study portion that was read by Miss Susan. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are simply a one-sentence answer, split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
Basically, in English, what that means is we're going to read the material once through and then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language in the questions gives us a new light in which to consider the study material.
This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we've completed this study, we will open up for comment, questions, and observations based on what was just read. If you have spiritual experiences with this information, you are free to share. Please keep your share on topic and under 5 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, you may hear a timer beep to let you know that your time is finished.
However, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, for example, with your sponsor, please do not be offended when we cut that conversation short and send the buzzards nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied, which brings us to the words of one of our co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group.
So, before we get started, how did we get here? We didn't just randomly open the book and say, let's read this page tonight. We're in the fourth year of this group, or fourth year of this study, and we start on the title page where we see our first promise. How many thousands of men and women have become recovered from alcoholism? And we read all the way through page 164 in the format you'll be seeing in a little while, the question and answer format. We read the preface, the forewords, each and every line through all the Roman numbers up through page 164. We also read Dr. Bob's Nightmare, spend 2 weeks on the traditions, and as a part of the study, we also study when the asterisk on page tells us that we also look at the spiritual experience, appendix 2. And because that spirituality is such a big part of our program, we close out our study on week 94 with a standalone week on the spiritual experience. And then once we get to the end of that, we roll all the way back to the beginning and we start it all over again. So we are in our 4th year of our study, and in our 3rd year of our study, 3rd year going through the book, and we are about to come up on our 5th year of being a group. And each time we go through the book, each time we study, I learn a whole lot more.
Thank you, Trish. Before we start the recap, we will need 5 or 6 virtual hands raised if you would like to be one of our answer readers. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website and our YouTube channel.
And now, come on in with our recap. Oh, you're muted.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Donald, other known as Gandalf the Red Pickle in here. And I am a grateful, recovered, but not cured alcoholic. And this recap is chapter 8, the beginning of chapter 8, to the wives. And ladies and gentlemen, whenever you do read this portion of the book, remember that it was back 85 years ago when it was wrote. So take into effect some of the verbiage may be different. So here we go. With few exceptions, our book this far has spoken of men. But what we have said amples quite as much applies to as much to women. Our activities in behalf of women who drink are on the increase. There is every evidence that women regain their health as readily as men if they try our suggestions. But for every man who drinks, others are involved. The wife who trembles in fear of the next debauch, the mother or father who sees their son wasting away. Among us are wives, relatives, and friends whose problem has been solved, as well as some who have not yet found a happy solution. We want the wives of Alcoholics Anonymous to address the wives of men who drink too much. What they say will apply to nearly everyone bound by ties of blood or affection to an alcoholic. As wives of Alcoholics Anonymous, we would like you to feel that we understand as perhaps few can. We want to analyze mistakes we have made. We want to leave you with the feeling that no situation is too difficult and unhappiness too great to be overcome. We have traveled a rocky road. There is no mistake about that. We have had long rendezvous with hurt, pride, frustration, self-pity, misunderstanding, and fear. These are not pleasant companions. We have been driven to maudlin sympathy, to bitter resentment. Some of us have veered from extreme to extreme, ever hoping that one day our loved ones would be themselves once more. Our loyalty and the desire that our husbands hold up their heads and be like other men have begotten all sorts of predicaments. We have been unselfish and self-sacrificing. We have told innumerable lies to protect our pride and our husbands' reputations. We have prayed, we have begged, we have been patient. We have struck out viciously, We have run away. We have been hysterical. We have been terror-stricken. We have sought sympathy. We've had retaliatory love affairs with other men. Our homes have been battlegrounds many an evening. In the morning we have kissed and made up. Our friends have counseled checking them in, and we have done so with finality, only to be back in a little while, hoping, always hoping. Our men have sworn great solemn oaths that they were through drinking forever. We have believed them when no one else could or would. Then in days, weeks, or months of fresh new outbursts. We seldom had friends at our house, never knowing how or when the men of the house would appear. We could make few social engagements. We came to live almost alone. When we were invited out, our husbands sneaked so many drinks that they spoiled the occasion. If, on the other hand, they took nothing, their self-pity made them killjoys. Thank you for letting me be of service.
Thank you, Donald. Glad you're here. Thank you for being of service. And now Miss Susan is going to come in and read our study.
Hi, my name is Susan. I'm an alcoholic. There was never financial security. Possessions were always in jeopardy or gone. An armored car could not have brought the pay envelopes home. The checking account melted like snow in June. Sometimes there were other women. How heartbreaking was this discovery. How cruel to be told they understood our men as we did not. The bill collectors, the sheriffs, the angry taxi drivers, the policemen, the bums, the pals, and even the ladies they sometimes brought home. Our husbands thought we were so inhospitable. Joy killer, nag, wet blanket. That's what they said. Next day, they would be themselves again, and we would forgive and try to forget. We have tried to hold the love of our children for their father. We have told small tots that father was sick, which was much nearer the truth than we realized. They struck the children, kicked out door panels, smashed treasured crockery, and ripped the keys out of pianos. In the midst of such pandemonium, they may have rushed out threatening to live with the other women forever. In desperation, we have even got tight ourselves, the drunk to end all drunks. The unexpected result was that our husbands seemed to like it. Perhaps at this point we got a divorce and took the children home to father and mother. Then we were severely criticized by our husbands' parents for desertion. Usually we did not leave. We stayed on and on. We finally sought employment ourselves as destitution faced us amid our families. We began to ask medical advice as the sprees got closer together. The alarming physical and mental symptoms, the deepening pile of remorse, depression, inferiority that settled down on our loved ones. These things terrified and distracted us. As animals on a treadmill, we have patiently and wearily climbed, falling back in exhaustion after each futile effort to reach solid ground. Most of us have entered the final stage with this commitment to health resorts, sanitariums, hospitals, and jails. Sometimes there was screaming delirium and insanity. Death was often near. Under these conditions, we naturally made mistakes. Some of them rose out of ignorance of alcoholism. Sometimes we sensed dimly that we were dealing with sick men. Had we fully understood the nature of the alcoholic illness, we might have behaved differently. How could men who loved their wives and children be so unthinking, so callous, so cruel? There could be no love in such persons, we thought. And just as we were being convinced of their heartlessness, they would surprise us with fresh resolves and new attentions. For a while they would be their old sweet selves, only to dash the new structure of affection to pieces once more. Asked why they commenced to drink again, they would reply with some silly excuse or none. It was so baffling, so heartbreaking. Could we have been so mistaken in the men we married? When drinking, they were strangers. Sometimes they were so inaccessible that it seemed as though a great wall had been built around them. And even if they did not love their families, how could they be so blind about themselves? What had become of their judgment, their common sense, their willpower? Why could they not see that drink meant ruin to them? Why was it, when these dangers were pointed out, that they agreed and then got drunk again immediately? Thank you for letting me leave service.
Thank you, Miss Suzanne. Glad you're here. Thank you for being of service. All right, we could use one or two more answer readers. And for our answer readers, please speak clearly into your microphones. We will ask the questions from our script by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff. The answers to the questions will be sentence by sentence coming directly out of this week's study, beginning with the first sentence and ending with the last one. If those answering questions lose their place, please allow me to redirect them to the correct sentence. So we're going to go back to page 105 and we're going to start with Ken. How was our financial security?
Everybody needs to unmute too. Can't hear you, Kenny.
I didn't hear the question.
So we're at the top of page, or we're on page 105.
I didn't hear the question. There was never financial security.
Thank you. All right, Donald. Why was that? 2 sentences.
Positions were always in jeopardy of gone. An armored car could not have brought the pay envelopes home.
Thank you. Oh, that's it. Thank you. Marilyn, what happened to the checking account?
Checking account melted like snow in June.
Thank you. Susan, what was sometimes another serious problem?
Sometimes there were other women.
Thank you. Jamie, what was the drinker's excuse for this?
How heartbreaking was the discovery? How cruel to be told they understood our men as we did not.
Thank you. William, who interfered with the normal family life? 2 sentences.
The bill collector, the shack, the angry taxi driver, the policeman, the bums, the power, and even the ladies, they sometimes brought home. Our husband thought we was in hospital. But
Oh, next sentence too.
joy killer, nag, wet blanket, that's what they said.
Thank you. Shayla, next day we did what?
Next day, they would be themselves again, and we would forgive and try to forget.
Thank you. Kenny, what have we tried to do where the children were concerned? 2 sentences.
We have tried to hold the love of our children for their fathers. We have told small tots that father was sick, which was much nearer to the truth than we realized.
Thank you. Donald, how had the alcoholic reacted? 2 sentences.
They struck the children, kicked the doors, the door panels, smashed treasured crockery, and ripped the keys out of piano. In the midst of such pandemonium, they may have rushed out, threatening to live with the other woman forever.
Thank you. Marilyn, in desperation, what have we done?
In desperation, we have even got tight ourselves. The jump to end all junks.
Thank you. Susan, excuse me. How did they react?
The unexpected result was that our husbands seemed to like it.
Thank you. Jamie, perhaps we go so far as to what?
Perhaps at this point we got a divorce and took the children home to father and mother.
Thank you. William, what did that earn us?
Then we were severely criticized by our husband, parents for deserting.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we did
Shay,
not. Okay.
Oh.
Thank you.
thank you, William. Shay, two-part question, or two sentences. But usually we did what?
You're muted too, Shay.
Okay, I'm lost. I'm sorry, I had to move to plug in my computer. Where are we at?
We're at the bottom of page 106. We finally saw it. Or no, usually we did not leave.
Usually we did not leave. We stayed on and on. We finally sought employment ourselves.
Just on and on. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Kenny. We finally did what?
We finally sought employment ourselves as destitution faced us and our families.
Thank you. Donald, did we go to the doctors for help?
We began to ask medical advice as the sprees got closer together.
Thank you. Marilyn, what prompted this?
The alarming physical and mental systems, the deepening pall of remorse, depression, and inferiority that settled down on our loved ones. These things terrified us and distracted us.
Thank you. Susan, like animals on a treadmill, we did what?
As animals on a treadmill, we have patiently and wearily climbed, falling back in exhaustion after each futile effort to reach solid ground.
Thank you. Jamie, most of us have had to experience what?
Most of us have entered a final stage with its commitment to health resorts, sanitariums, hospitals, and jails.
Thank you. William, we've sometimes had to witness them going through what?
Sometimes that was screaming, delirium, and insanity.
Thank you. Shay, what was often near?
Death was often near.
Thank you. Kenny, did we function well under these conditions?
Under these conditions, we naturally made mistakes.
Thank you. Donald, some were from what?
Some of them rose out of ignorance of alcoholism.
Thank you. Marilyn, what did we sometimes sense?
Sometimes we sensed dimly that we were dealing with sick men.
Thank you. Susan, if we had known the truth, what might we have done?
Had we fully understood the nature of the alcoholic illness, we might have behaved differently.
Thank you. Jamie, what could we not understand?
How could men who loved their wives and children be so unthinking, so callous, so cruel?
Thank you. William, we came to believe that they were no longer capable of what?
There could be no love in such a person. We thought.
Thank you. Shay, when we came to believe that, what did they do?
And just as we were being convinced of their heartlessness, they would surprise us with fresh resolves and new attentions.
Thank you. Kenny, two-part question. For a while, they would sometimes be what? To be followed by what?
For a while, they would be their old sweet self, only to dash the new structure and affection to the pieces once more.
Thank you. Donald, when we asked why, what would be their answer?
That's why they commenced to drink again. They would reply with some silly excuse or none.
Thank you. Marilyn, it was what?
It was baffling, so heartbreaking.
Thank you. Susan, what question did we find ourselves asking?
Could we have been so mistaken in the men we married?
Thank you. Jamie, did we know them when they were on the sauce?
When drinking, they were strangers.
Got one comment to come in with. Could this be due to the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde personality change?
Thank you, Trish. William, what appeared to be the reason they were so inaccessible?
Sometimes they were so inaccessible that it seemed as though a great wall had been built around them.
Thank you. Shay, if they did not love us, how could they not what?
And even if they did not love their families, how could they be so blind about themselves?
Thank you. Kenny, what qualities seem to have vanished?
What had become of their judgment, their common sense, their willpower?
Thank you. Donald, we had to wonder why they couldn't see what?
Okay, I'm sorry, I got distracted and stuff from a text. Where are we at? What line?
You are going to start reading Why Could They?
We're on 108 right now, right?
Yes. Or the bottom of 107.
Why could they not see that drink meant ruin to them?
Thank you. And Marilyn, you get the last question. What was so baffling?
Why was it when these dangers were pointed out that they agreed and then got drunk again immediately? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all our answer readers. You may put your hands down now if they're still up. And if you have experience with the portion of the book that was just read, please feel free to share. Please be mindful of your time and that others may have their hand raised and are waiting to share. A friendly reminder as we share, absence of profanity offends no one. We are now open for comment, questions, observations, and spiritual experiences based on what we just read. And another friendly reminder that you will be able to see the timer, the 5-minute timer. Moving on slowly. Trish, come on in.
Hi everybody, I'm Trish, I'm an alcoholic, and I will kick us all off. I can see both sides of this, because I was engaged in living with the alcoholic, and I was also the alcoholic myself, but we were not active at the same time. But I could definitely see from the wife or the fiance point of view, the bill collectors, the sheriffs, the people banging on the door saying, where is he? What is he doing? And the people that he brought home or that he hung out with, I didn't really like, but I was kind of stuck with it because I wasn't willing to leave. From my perspective in this, I could definitely see It talks about the animals on the treadmill waiting, and we have patiently and wearily climbed, falling back in exhaustion after each futile effort to reach solid ground. I was on both sides of that, waiting for him to stop, but also trying to figure out for me, how am I going to stop? How am I going to stop doing this? Week after week and month after month, I keep telling myself I don't want to do this, but I kept doing it anyway. I kept picking up that drink again. Never realizing that I was dealing with an illness, that it wasn't willpower on my part. I knew with him that it was an illness for him, but I didn't realize that alcoholism was an illness when I was in the throes of it. And then it talks about the walls that we put up around ourselves. And, I built great walls while I was drinking to keep everybody out. I didn't want anybody to ask, what are you doing? What do you think you're doing with your life? You're throwing your life away. But I also put up even more walls when I was still living with him, because the same questions, you're throwing your life away. Why are you putting all your attention into him? And I didn't want those questions because I didn't want to look at the answers. I didn't want to look at the answers because I didn't see myself that I didn't want life with him, but I didn't want life without him. Much like with the alcohol, I couldn't see life without the alcohol, but I didn't want the alcohol in my life anymore. And I had to reach a point where I knew that I just had to put the alcohol down. I knew I had to reach a point where I had to walk away from him. And in both cases, neither was an easy decision at the beginning. But, putting the alcohol down brought me to a whole new life that I never thought I would have. And allowed me to start living life rather than just living on that treadmill, putting out so much energy and not feeling like I was going anywhere. And, pulling my family down, pushing my family away. All of that goes along with the drinking, and then wondering why I was so alone. Why nobody was there in my life. Because I pushed everybody away. I didn't want anybody there. I didn't want anybody's help. And it was the same when I was living on the other side of it with my then fiance. I pushed everybody away. I didn't want anybody in. I didn't want anybody to know what was going on. Because I didn't want anybody to say, oh, you poor thing. And I didn't want anybody to say, you need to leave him. But I had to come to grips myself that with my alcoholism, I had to find a way to stop. And the way to stop was to walk into these rooms and find a new life, recognize that it wasn't a matter of willpower, that it was an illness. And then I had to find my way through the steps so that I can start building that relationship with my family that through my alcoholism I had ruined. I had pushed them away and burnt so many bridges. But thankfully I've been able to start building those bridges back and get a relationship back with them. Thanks.
Thank you, Trish. All right, William, come in and share with us.
Good evening to everybody. My name is William Alcoholic. Whenever we read stuff like this, I get a chance to reflect about me. I get a chance to reflect about 1935 or 1939 when they put the book together and get a picture. A lot of people suffer from alcoholism. I like how Bill says it in the 12 and 12. He said, man had a problem with alcohol ever since man first drink. So they had a problem, and it wasn't until that Bill and Bob came up with a solution that they did. But the public information, like what we have today, they didn't have it. They didn't have it. But in this book, they did a fantastic job with public information. They put it in every corner where the alcohol hung out. They wrote it, put the information in the book, and put it in every corner where the alcohol had it. And today we hear on Zoom and having big meetings and stuff like that, because I was clueless about what was going on with me. I definitely had was able to maintain a certain standard in life, and I thought it came from a hard place. My mother's father had died whenever I was like 2 years of age, and I thought because of the materialistic success I had was because of my willpower. You know, so I thought that same willpower that I could do with alcoholism, and definitely alcohol isolated. You know, as soon as somebody started talking about my drink, I cut them out. That was it. They don't talk about my drink. Can't drink no more of my liquor. So that means I had more to consume. And I got sick of it. But I got the education variety of this. You know what I mean? I wasn't a person who could walk in here and begin to understand it. I knew my willpower wasn't working. I knew I had multiple personalities. I called the Dr. Jekyll Mr. Hyde, like they talk about it in the book. One day he'd be good, the next day he'd be this, the next day he'd be that. And I seen those type of personalities, but I didn't have no solution to it. I didn't have a solution to that. So because of that, a lot of people left me alone. You know what I mean? But it was my significant other stood with me through all the insanity. She stayed with me. You know what I mean? But I had other relationships that I had. They just went on about their business, and I can remember sometimes that I would be hanging out with people, and they would say to me, the way you drink, the way you do it, you're going to hurt yourself, And that sort of put me in isolation. Because you can't even talk about me, about my drinking, or you're not paying attention. You're not telling me what to do because you're not paying attention. So anyhow, once I came here to get educated on it, it's to the white, but it's eye open for me about the personality, the type of personality I had. Because when I was out there, most of the stuff, except for the willpower, the personalities and stuff like that, I was clueless about what was going on. I was blind. So I came here to Alcoholics Anonymous for people made book meetings, tradition meetings, because I didn't know the difference. But I felt safe in the room. I felt safe as soon as I walked inside of the room. All that noise that was going off in my head began to cease. So today I'm much better than I was when I walked through the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous, but I don't have it made. But I'm happy with my life. I'm happy with the life I got. I'm happy with the high power. Happy with the people around me who understand me. I found my tribe. You know what I mean? Anytime you start talking about alcoholism, I identify right away. No matter what neighborhood you come from, no matter how much money you had in your pocket, no matter how less money you had in your pocket, as soon as you start talking about what alcoholism does to us alcoholics, I identify. And that's how I learned about what was going on with me. I tell you, I wasn't one who came and got sober right away. I'm not a badge of honor, because I was a very sick person. But one thing that I learned, a belly full of alcohol and a head full of AA just don't make a lie. I wouldn't want to be intellectual out of it. But when I got that big and things started happening, I thought, oh, that's what they talking about. That's what they talking about. I'm just so grateful that I'm here with you tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, William. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for sharing. Okay, next. My name's Alyssa. I'm a recovered alcoholic, and I'm still meditating on the reading. I really don't have any experience or hope to share. So thank you for letting me be here, and thank you for letting me be of service.
Okay, I'll step in here. Good evening, everyone. Donald Alcoholic, and a grateful one at that. One of the things that I get out of this reading, is all the things we used to do to our significant others. Oh my gosh. Could you imagine if we did some of the stuff that they did back then today? Oh my gosh, we would be beheaded. And, but some of the things that we did do, I know some of the things that I did, I should have been beheaded. But the thing is, though, is that the only thing I did is come home drunk. We always had money. We always had food. Whenever I drank, it was usually at the bar and playing pool and darts. And I kept my drinking separate from the house. But there were times that I just didn't go home. And in my eye, I was delusional because I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. I'm just playing pool. It's just a game. I'm playing it with my friends. But that's what the problem was, because I was doing that instead of spending time with my loved one or taking care of things at home. And or even sometimes whenever I was home, I did have an occasional cocktail or have people over that were drinking. And for the most part, I thought it was okay, but evidently it is not. So I haven't been in a relationship in over 10 years. But actually make that 12 years. I know it's a lot easier, but the loneliness does set in, and you miss that intimacy, the confidentiality of, spending those precious little moments with somebody you do care for. And whenever we look back on what we have done and what we've lost, hey, I'm sorry for what I've done. But I'll tell you one thing. I've had to let it go and accept the fact that it was what it was, and it was my stepping stone. It was my learning curve. And I had to lose what I had gained in order to realize what I have. It's like the old adage and songs, that were written about it. You don't know what you've got until it's gone. Well, guess what? Once we get it back, we know how to keep it this time. We hopefully do, anyway. So, my name is Donald, and I'm a grateful alcoholic. And Jamie, I think you may have to get that wheel of names out. God bless you guys.
Thank you, Donald. Glad you're here. Thank you for coming in and sharing on that part of the reading. Miss Lisa, come in and share with us.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa. I'm an alcoholic. And boy, reading this and the recap was kind of like reading some of my life story. Like Trish, I could see both sides of this. And, living with another alcoholic, it's tough. And, I don't think I'd be where I am now if I was still in that relationship. When I was told in the beginning when it ended, that maybe it was a blessing. I didn't like hearing it, but I heard it and I listened, and I think that's true, because I don't think I would have been focusing on myself. I don't think I would have gotten the work I needed to get done. I would have been focusing on him, and the codependent stuff was just so great. I mean, I just couldn't see it Now, where was the sentence? Yeah, I didn't understand the nature of the alcoholic illness. You know, I mean, for so many years, and you know, I've had a lot of sober time. But that was, you know, oh, I'm not drinking, so I'm doing all right. You know, leave me alone, I'm fine. But I wasn't fine. It was, you know, the depression, the anger, which was mostly all fear that I found out. You know, I didn't pick up the book. You know, and like I said, it's my adult life and different stages, and you know, looking at all that spiritual malady, and you know, like both of us brought in stuff from childhood and relationships we had before, and never mind with our stuff. And it was just constant conflict. And but I couldn't see it. I couldn't see what I couldn't see. I didn't know what I didn't know. And that's, you know, it's so important. You know, having people to talk to and helping me to see things that I just was so clouded from all the crap, you know, that you can get rid of with doing these steps. And I'm really grateful tonight. And, yeah, reading this brought back a lot, and you know, but I don't have to hold on to it, you know. But it's helping me to see, you know, wow, you know, you know, if you're going through anything like that, boy, get into this, you know. I always ran from it, and that was just the crazy fear that I had in my head, you know, because it really wasn't that bad. For me, anyway. Not as bad as I played it out to be, you know. Just be willing and listen and just keep talking. You know, you'll be amazed before you're halfway through. And that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Miss Lisa. Glad you're here. Thank you for coming in and sharing. Larry, good to see you. Come in and share.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Larry. You know, I look at this chapter, and, you know, it says to the wives, and, you know, there is some instruction to wives that are dealing maybe with alcoholics, or, you know, that helps them to deal with people like us, so that they may not escalate problems and might eventually help people like us to get help and seek help. But you know, it's also, you know, when we as alcoholics, after we have found, you know, help, when we read this chapter, you know, it does bring back memories of how we acted, what we did to our family, and you know, I truly look, and you know, I have lost 3 families, and 2 of them to alcoholism. The third one was because of alcoholism, my character defects. I should not have gotten into a relationship that early after seeking recovery. You know, all of it related to alcoholism. But the most damage that I've done, you know, other than truly I've done damage to my first wife. I mean, I could never repair what I did there, but was to my children. And it's taken years to repair some of that damage and the neglect, the abandonment that I did with them. I'm just now getting some type of relationship with them. They just now are inviting me into their homes for special occasions like Father's Day and stuff, and making a big deal out of my birthday and giving me a special day. Just things like that. It's taken years, 10, 11, 12 years. You know, I've been sober almost 14 years now, and it took that long for them to accept me into the family unit. So you can, you know, I haven't been in a relationship in over 8 years since my last divorce. It's been probably 9 years. And, you know, I don't know if I'm ready for one. You know, I swore I wouldn't get a relationship until I was, and I'm not sure. I didn't know what love was when I got that divorce, and I'm not sure I understand it now. I didn't know what love was. I was in love, but I didn't know how to love back. And it's important to know how to love back, to give love as well as receive it. And I was broken. I was truly broken as an alcoholic. I only knew how to receive. I did not know how to give. I was so selfish, so self-centered. Yeah, this chapter just opens up those views of things that we did wrong, and maybe if God gives us an opportunity to maybe have another relationship, maybe we'll get it right. That's all I got.
Thank you, Larry. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for sharing your experience, strength, and hope on the reading. Miss Marilyn, good to see you. Come in and share.
Hi everyone, my name is Marilyn and I'm a recovered alcoholic. This chapter brought a lot of things back to me because, well, I did come from a dysfunctional family of alcoholics, so we never did really communicate because there was a lot of yelling and nobody talked about their feelings, and I was never really around. I was taken into well, over there they call it the Children's Aid Society. So I was in and out of Children's Aid Society, and I didn't really know how to feel or what to think because my emotions were so messed up. But like I said, I wasn't really around my family. But when I did get to go home, I still wasn't around them because I had a boyfriend, so I was always going here, going there. And I remember my first boyfriend, oh my gosh, that was, excuse me, it was totally insane. It was crazy, like you wouldn't believe. Anything could happen at any time. It didn't matter what time of day, what time of night. It was brutal. It was brutal. And it lasted for 4 years. and we're both alcoholics. Well, I'll speak for myself, but he had a lot of issues himself. And of course, I had my own issues because I didn't know how to communicate. And then my second boyfriend, well, he wasn't an alcoholic, but I sure was. My drinking at the age of 17, I became a full-blown alcoholic. So I was the type of person where we had friends come over, and meanwhile, I would hide booze in the back of the toilet bowl, you know what I mean? And so I would, in order for me to feel better around these people, I would go to the bathroom and I would lift that lid up and get a beer, and then I would drink guzzle as much as I can, and then I would go back out there and make a fool of myself because I started getting drunk and embarrass him, and I would do stupid things, you know, and yeah, but you know, I'm just going to talk about my last relationship because it was really a twister, and I haven't had a drink through that. I haven't had a drink in 36 years, but I was in that relationship for 12 years. I knew that there was something wrong right from the beginning, but I stayed. But that I stayed even though I knew there was something wrong. He had his own issues. I had my own, and it was something that I didn't want to deal with, so I stayed. And that's the nature of the ism, of the disease, and not wanting to let go because I was afraid, and everything was delusional to me because I couldn't figure out things, and I tried to, and I had all this stuff going on in my head, and nothing seemed right. And today, just by reading this chapter and listening to what has been said, I finally come to the acceptance. Really, truly, it took me a long time. I finally come to the exception to accept what has happened, because it was 2 or 3 days ago I wasn't there. I've been working on my 4th step. I wasn't there, and I'm not willing to pray, but now I am, you know, to take that resentment stuff away. But I don't feel like that right now. It just changed. But the other thing that's really important to me is I remember when I was drinking and I was just such a mess. I was in depression. I was isolated. I really, really hated myself. I had a lot of self-pity. And I remember looking in the mirror and I would pull my hair and say, Marilyn, you know better doing this, because I had went to treatment and I kept getting drunk and just full of self-pity. But thankfully, this lady wanted to give me a little pill. She said, here, this will make you feel better. And I never took it. Thank God I didn't. Because if I had taken it, I probably would have felt better. I would have drank, I would have got drunk and died. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. Glad you're here. Thank you for sharing your experience, strength, and hope on the reading. Hi, Stephanie. Good to see you. Come in and share.
Hey there, Stephanie, recovered alcoholic. I take no pride in saying this, and it's probably what I talk about every time we go through this chapter, but my previous husband, who is deceased, tractor fell on him, and so I've not been able to make amends to him. But I loved it when he was going to drink. I loved it when I knew he was going to pull a one, you know, and because I could drink the way I wanted to. And he was the type that did really, really crazy, crazy things when he drank. Like, really out there. And I'd give him what for the next day, even though I'd been up half the night, drinking. But he always passed out pretty early, so there was nobody to see how I was drinking. But in hindsight, and after being in AA and making me aware of the hypocrisy and I feel really bad about it. But can't make amends to him. That's all I got.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for sharing your experience drinking home on that part of the reading. Brian, come on in and share with us.
Yeah, hey, how's it going, everyone? Brian, alcoholic here. I mean, when I first started drinking, I was probably drinking for about 20 years or so, but when I got married a few years back, I just actually celebrated our fourth anniversary this past Monday. I kind of backed off the way I was drinking. I wasn't drinking 4 nights a week, 5 nights a week, stuff like that. But I was drinking once a week, and I would drink till 4 in the morning, on a Friday or on a Saturday or whatnot. And we were newly married, and so my wife, she put up with it for a while. Like, I was just out, but then I'd just be out, and I'm a heavy sleeper, so I'd come home, I'd piss the bed sometimes. So she would start to move to the couch, and this just progressed because I felt like, I'm just out once a week, because I knew I used to be out 4 nights a week. So I'm doing better, like I'm not drinking the way I used to drink. I worked hard all week. I deserved to go out at least one night. But I mean, it was just, that binge. I mean, I just had to close the bar down. Sometimes I'd be at an after hour spot, so I wouldn't even get home till sometimes 6 in the morning. But it wasn't until I really read this chapter that I understood more so how she felt, and the insecurity that I kind of put in her by being out like this, being out all night. I'm just thinking kind of like what Don said, I'm just hanging out. I'm just having a good time, but in her mind, I'm out, I'm gone. She's, we're newly married, maybe a year in, and I'm just out all night. And my last binge really put our marriage in a tough spot. I mean, I'm still dealing with the ramifications from that, and it's tough. It's very tough because I caused it, and I know I caused it, and there's nothing I can do to force it, fix it. I just got to kind of give it time. But I mean, there's something I can do. I mean, definitely not drink. Definitely stay on my path. Know that drinking isn't going to help anything. It's not going to, bring back the trust for her to have in me. Especially now that we have a daughter, we have another one on the way. She definitely wants to know I'm going to be there and I'm going to be dependable. And so it does get tough for me. She's also very hormonal right now, so sometimes we get into it, and it's tough, right? Drinking was my go-to. That's where I would go to escape those emotions and anger and whatnot. But I don't have that. I've had to find other outlets, and maybe I jump into a video game or something. Because I don't want to drink. I don't want to go back to that life. I don't want to go back to that, being out all night, waking up the next day and realizing, what was it worth? What was it for? It wasn't really worth much. I wasted a bunch of money, didn't do anything special. Now I've got, contention in my household. Like, why? So, this chapter just really helped me understand things from my wife's perspective. And, it's, most importantly, I just make it a point to not drink because I know that alcohol is not going to help. And I understand that now. I used to drink sometimes out of spite. I used to drink sometimes. But you know, I want to be there for my family and for my daughters. I don't want to be the reason I break up my family and give, you know, my daughters a split home. So that's, you know, that's my motivation to help keep me sober. But yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for sharing your experience, strength, and hope on that part of the reading. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. All right, who's going to come in next and share?
I'll go ahead and jump in. Hi, family. My name is Jamie, very grateful, recovered alcoholic. And while this portion of the book may have been written in the late 30s and published in 1939, it has actually, especially these pages we read tonight, have been my actual experience in the 70s and 80s. So what's my point about all of that? It doesn't matter the time period that it was written in. It's the behavior and characteristics of alcoholism. And God, I did all of this stuff, and some of the people that I was involved with in relationships with did all of this stuff as well. And you know, I some of it, even without a drink, some of the behaviors moved into my first early years of sobriety as well, because I had to learn how not to participate in old behaviors, and the only way I have done that is by taking the action that's laid out in the steps. You know, the thing that I love about this chapter is it's a chapter that everybody loves to hate. And why does everybody hate it? Because no one wants to look at the honest truth about themselves. You know, I hate to say it, but you know, I'm still capable of being a selfish, self-centered SOB. And it's very painful for us to take a look at ourselves, let alone admit our shortcomings in our behaviors of the past in a group of people. But it's also an exercise in walking towards humility and trying to live a life that is based in some spiritual idea and belief. You know, thank God by the time I married wife number 3, of which I still had much selfishness and self-centeredness, at least a lot of these behaviors had already gone away because I'd been sober for a few years. And it is also my experience, even when I have someone from the past who is deceased, that it's not true that I can't make an amends to them. Maybe I can't make an amends to them in person. But trust me, I have written lots and lots of letters. I have done tons of balloon releases. I have done lots of reading those letters to someone else and praying and burning them and putting them in the rose bushes, or taking that and painting a brick on that with that person's name on the brick and burying that letter underneath the brick and let God do with it what he does. And the beautiful thing about that is I get to live in freedom. And then part of that amends process is no longer living that kind of life today, which is very important. Yep, it's a chapter everybody loves to hate, and but it's a chapter that if we apply the information in it, we begin to understand the information in it, it will change our lives, because this chapter in life today is all about us, the alcoholic, practicing the principles, which are the steps, in all our affairs, and our home, our families, relationships with significant others, and our employers are truly the places that we live. Not hanging out with the boys watching Sunday football or any of that. Thank God I don't do any of that crap anyway. At least for me, it's just not my thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Glad you're here. Thank you for sharing your experience, strength, and hope on that part of the reading. Art, our belated birthday boy, come in and share with us.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Art. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. This chapter and the next one, Family Afterward, is where I really got the insight into what I had done to other people, because I didn't really think I knew anybody else. I was one of those that thought I really didn't. My drinking was in the way I looked at it didn't hurt anybody really. But when I got into these chapters, this one and the following chapter, I began to realize what kind of harm I really had done to other people, particularly my family. And it wasn't easy to look at. You know, like Jamie said, people hate this chapter because it brings to light some of the things that I have done, that I did as a drunk, and some even long into sobriety. And it takes a long time. It's somewhere it talks about the long reconstruction that we have ahead of us. And some of the damage that I did was impossible to reconstruct. It was just gone. And other things that you know, I have been able to reestablish a relationship with my children. But their mother, we got to a point where we could be civil to one another, but we never really, I was never really able to patch up the damage that I did. And you know, this chapter kind of reminds me about that. At the same time, it allows me to see that I'm not that person anymore. That I have made a lot of progress in the area of minimizing damage to people that I associate with, and family that's has become available to me. I don't want to be that that person. But I realize that I can still be that selfish, self-centered, egotistical, know-it-all kind of character that did all the damage to everybody in my life. But I don't have to be. And it's not because of any great virtue on my part. It's because of a loving God that's entered my life and made changes with my permission. And so as a result of allowing that that process to take place, I can look at that stuff that I did back then and realize that, yeah, I did it, but that was a long time ago. And even though I may be capable of that kind of behavior still today, I don't have to buy into that. I have a choice. But today is better than it's ever been as a result of the process that we promote in this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Glad you're here. Thank you for sharing your experience and can help on that part of the reading. Anybody else? Good night, Susan. Would anybody else like to come in and share before we close out?
Close this out then. So from page 164, our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
Thank you, Trish. All right, we have a special way of closing out here at Primary Purpose, since we can't hold hands together like we do in a live meeting. We hold our hands up to a screen, and we'll have a moment of silence for those still sick and suffering in and out of our rooms. We'll close with the Lord's Prayer. Here's your moment. Who brings us from shame to grace if we let Him? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you, everyone. William.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye, Shane.
Bye.
That's you on my computer now.
Yay.
Thanks,